Behold the justice inflicted upon the man who killed Recorder Castel!
From being executed for the crime of binge-watching foreign films to facing the gallows for daring to love someone of the same sex.
This was justice in Iran in 1992, and according to opposition groups, it continues today.
Death row penalties around the globe serve up some truly chilling and downright bizarre fates. One wrong move, and you might find yourself 6 feet under before you even have time to say, "Wait, what just happened?" With that said, here's what death row looks like around the world. The United States of America. Every year, around 20 people are sentenced to death in the United States of America. It's honestly shocking because with all the talk about capital punishment, the US should be racking up executions, but plot twist, it doesn't even make the top 10. Here's where it gets even more unnerving. In many states, the death penalty is like that ex you just can't shake off, still on the books, but rarely used. Out of all 50 states, only 11 actually carry out executions. So what kind of crimes land someone on death row? Think homicide, but not the minor stuff. We're talking espionage, treason, and extreme drug trafficking, serious crimes that show the darker side of human behavior. However, when it comes to execution methods, the US has a chilling buffet of horrors that will make your skin crawl. Different states have their own favorites, leading to 5 spine-tingling ways. Lethal injection, the electric chair, firing squad, gas chamber, and gas asphyxiation. Each method has a dark history and sparks fierce debates, keeping the conversation about capital punishment alive all over America. Now, when it comes to the eerie reality of life on death row, just 24 hours before their execution, inmates are pulled from their cells and sent to the creepy death house. This is the final stop, a nerve-wracking place, thick with dread and anticipation. Once inside, they face a full-body search, reminding them that this isn't just another day. After the search, they get a fresh outfit, an unsettling sign of their last moments on Earth. Then it's off to the chilling Death Watch cell, where they'll spend what's likely their final night, with the clock ticking down. In this stark, lonely space, time drags on, but the tension is electric. Some inmates try to grab a few minutes of sleep, hoping to escape the heavy weight of their fate, while others lie wide awake, hearts racing and minds spinning. They're caught in a struggle with their choices, replaying the wild journey that brought them here. As the clock counts down the final hours of an inmate's life on death row, the air is thick with emotion and finality. At the 15-hour mark, everything changes. The inmate is jolted awake, thrown into a day that feels surreal and intense. A quick shower washes away the dirt and maybe some regrets before they sit down to a prison breakfast that seems oddly normal in such a crazy moment. Then it's time for the big moment. Fast forward to the 14-hour mark. It's the last goodbyes. For 45 heart-pounding minutes, the inmate can talk to friends and family, pouring out their hearts in bittersweet farewells. Love, tears, and unspoken regrets fill the air as they grab onto the moments that really matter, racing against the relentless ticking of the clock. As the clock races toward the 12-hour mark, the emotional break disappears in an instant. Visitations end suddenly, leaving the inmate alone with their thoughts. Lunch arrives, just another boring prison meal, but it quickly becomes a moment for deep reflection. Inmates can meet with a priest or imam, a rare chance to spill their hearts before facing the final judgment. Then finally, the sun starts to set, marking the 8-hour countdown, and the inmate gets a bittersweet gift: their last sunset. It's a stunning sight, both beautiful and haunting. However, just when you think it can't get any more emotional, they have 1 hour to write letters, a heartfelt goodbye to friends and family. Each stroke of the pen is heavy with love and sadness, turning quick thoughts into lasting words. Hold on though, because there's more. At the 6-hour mark, tradition takes the spotlight with the final meal. Forget the fancy Last Suppers you see in movies. Here, inmates are stuck with a $30 budget, which is honestly not much to work with in today's world. However, amid the chaos, many find comfort in simple favorites, a nostalgic dish from childhood that sparks a bit of joy. It's the last chance to enjoy comfort and memories, making every bite count in these haunting final moments. For the ones facing the electric chair, it's a terrifying experience, and the preparations are nothing short of shocking. Heads are shaved a grim step to stop hair from catching fire during execution. After this sobering preparation, the inmate takes one last shower, the water pouring over them like a final farewell, washing away everything they've ever known. As the clock counts down to 3 hours, the atmosphere crackles with anticipation and dread. Witnesses start to arrive, mostly the victim's family, but sometimes the inmates' own relatives join this heavy gathering. Everyone is on edge, their hearts racing as they brace themselves for the final act of this tragic story. With each tick of the clock, the stakes rise. At the 1-hour mark, the inmate is led to the death chamber, a cold, sterile room that feels worlds away from the warmth of life outside. Surrounded by 5 strong guards, the weight of the moment hits hard. The air is filled with unspoken words, fear, resignation, and the heavy feeling of what's to come. It's the ultimate countdown, and with every second that passes, the room buzzes with the energy of impending fate. The inmate is strapped in tight, every buckle pulled firm, locking them into the final moment. Tension builds fast, and the clock is ticking down. At 12 minutes, the doors open, and in come the witnesses. Families, reporters, and even the inmates' own loved ones. The curtains close with a soft swish, sealing the room in silence. Behind that one-way glass, they all wait, knowing they're about to witness something huge, something that can't be undone. Then, at 10 minutes, the inmate gets their last chance to speak. Will they apologize, claim innocence, or drop a shocking truth no one saw coming? Their final words hang in the air, heavy and powerful, echoing through the room. Once the last words have been said, a priest or imam may step in for one final visit, if the inmate wishes. Then, when the moment arrives, the execution is carried out. Each method, lethal injection, electric chair, or another option, leaves its own mark on the inmate. Currently, about 2,500 people are stuck on death row in the US, their fates hanging in the balance. The wait can drag on for years, even decades, as legal battles play out. For some, it's a chance for hope. For others, it's a nightmare that never ends. However, back in the day, things moved fast and not in a good way. George Stinney's case is one of the most shocking moments in American history. It's a brutal reminder of how unfair the justice system used to be. In 1944, at just 14 years old, he became the youngest person executed in the US during the 20th century. Accused of murdering 2 young Caucasian girls in South Carolina, he was arrested just hours after their bodies were found. The investigation? It was lightning fast and completely unfair. A black boy, grilled for hours without a lawyer or his parents. No real evidence against him, no written confession. Yet an all-white jury took just 10 minutes to find him guilty. His lawyer didn't even try to defend him. Just 3 months later, Stinney was strapped into the electric chair. He was so small they had to put him on a Bible to make it fit a sight that shocked even those who thought he was guilty. For 70 years, Stinney's story stood as a painful symbol of racial injustice. Then, in 2014, a judge finally cleared his name, calling it a great injustice. That one image shows how badly the system could fail when it was all about punishment. The wrongful execution of George Stinney is a shocking and tragic part of US history, a powerful reminder of how the death penalty has unfairly targeted marginalized communities. Thankfully, the US has made important strides to tackle these injustices. One major breakthrough came in 2005 with the Supreme Court decision in the Roper V Simmons case, which ruled that no one under 18 can be executed. It's a big shift, proof that we might be learning from the brutal mistakes of the past. Just when you think the horrors of death row can't get any more chilling, the reality of another country's approach to capital punishment takes the nightmare to a whole new level. Belarus. In the shadowy heart of Eastern Europe, Belarus holds a grim title. It's the last country on the continent still carrying out deathly executions. While the gallows aren't constantly in use, the threat is very real, with executions as recent as 2019. However, here's where it gets wild. Despite fewer deaths, the majority of Belarusians still back this medieval punishment. The question is, why? What keeps the public behind such a terrifying practice? Life on death row is pure torment. It's not just a sentence, it's a living nightmare. Prisoners are shoved into a tiny claustrophobic cell where they can't even lie down or sit. Fresh air is non-existent, and the silence in the room is deafening. Every minute feels like an hour, with the clock relentlessly ticking toward an unknown end. On top of that, the isolation is insanely overwhelming. Prisoners only get one visit a month from a lawyer or a family member. That's it. No connection, no comfort. However, the worst part is the constant fear. Prisoners never know when their execution will happen. One moment, they're in their cell, and the next, it's all over. Blindfolded, handcuffed, and taken away. As for how it ends, it's a quick shot, quick, brutal, final. What's worse is that their families don't even find out about them passing away until weeks later. It's a system built on secrecy, leaving nothing but fear and silence. The legal system in Belarus is insanely corrupt. Coercion, torture, and shady deals are all too common, forcing people to confess to crimes they didn't commit. This dark approach has left Belarus isolated from the European Council for years, but here's the twist: they refuse to change. Despite all the international pressure, they cling to their deadly practices. Now, from the chilling isolation of Belarus's death row to the gleaming streets of Singapore, the reality of capital punishment reveals a stark contrast wrapped in secrecy and swift justice. Singapore. Welcome to Singapore, where more than 100 hangings have taken place over the last 30 years, revealing a dark secret beneath its shiny surface. Home to over 4 million people, the country has one of the highest execution rates in the world. In a place where the law is serious, huge violations like murder, terrorism, or offences can land you on death row in no time. Singapore is known for its tough drug laws, and it doesn't take much to get into big trouble. On top of that, life on death row is not easy at all. Prisoners are stuck in bare cells with no comforts, no bedding, no luxuries, just the cold truth of their fate. Now family visits are allowed, but there's a catch. Thick glass separates loved ones from the condemned, turning heartfelt moments into heartbreaking encounters. As execution day creeps closer, a sliver of kindness shines through. Just 4 days before the end, inmates get small treats: television, music, and even a last meal of their choice. However, let's be real, these tiny perks can't change the chilling fate that awaits them. In Singapore, executions are quick and calculated. Long drop hanging is the method of choice. While the president can technically grant clemency, it's incredibly rare. Most cases go ahead as planned, with many locals seeing the death penalty as a tough but necessary way to keep crime in check. Not everyone's a fan, though. Just ask British author Alan Shadrake, who dared to criticize the system in his book. He didn't just get a slap on the wrist, he spent 6 weeks behind bars. Singapore's government isn't messing around when it comes to protecting its laws and reputation. While Singapore keeps its death row inmates in a sterile silence, Egypt's execution practices dive into the darkness, where secrecy reigns and justice is anything but blind. Egypt. In 2020 alone, executions in Egypt soared from 32 to a jaw-dropping 107. This pushed the country to 3rd place in the world for capital punishment, right behind China and Iran. It's definitely a grim leaderboard. Egypt's approach to capital punishment is anything but subtle. It's on the rise, and fast. While many countries are backing away from executions, Egypt is hitting the gas. Mass sentencing has become Egypt's trademark, especially since the 2013 coup. In one shocking move, nearly 700 members of the Muslim Brotherhood received death sentences. Some were later changed to life in prison, but the legal battles are still going strong. In June of 2024, a dozen more members had their death sentences confirmed with no chance to appeal. This is a harsh reminder that crossing the government in Egypt can have deadly consequences. In Egypt, if you're on death row, hanging is the grim end, and for military personnel, it's a whole firing squad. However, the most chilling part of Egypt's execution practices is the secrecy. The government doesn't have to announce executions, leaving families completely in the dark. No calls, no warnings, just silence. Human rights organizations are often the only ones brave enough to reveal this dark truth. Sadly, it gets worse. The trials that lead to these death sentences are anything but fair. Confessions are often forced under torture, making us question the whole system. It's a deadly mix of secrecy and fear, leaving families and communities shattered and unsure about their loved ones' fates. If Egypt is the master of secrecy when it comes to executions, then this next Middle Eastern country is the stage where the death penalty plays out in full view. Iraq. With about 4,000 prisoners currently waiting on death row, Iraq's death penalty story is anything but predictable. After Saddam's fall, executions took a break for a moment, but since 2004, they've made a chilling comeback, especially for anyone caught in the web of terrorism charges. Unlike many Middle Eastern countries that keep their execution stats secret, Iraq is surprisingly open, and the numbers are jaw-dropping. Mass executions, especially for those linked to ISIS or labeled enemies of the state, are becoming routine. However, what's really messed up is that terrorism can mean just about anything. It makes you wonder how many people are facing the noose without ever lifting a finger in violence. In Iraq, executions aren't just punishment, they're a show of power. Politics and the death penalty are closely linked, with high-profile figures, including top ministers, often facing the gallows. The most famous case in the country's history was Saddam Hussein. His execution didn't just end a chapter, it sent shockwaves through the country, making it clear who was in charge. As Iraq works to rebuild and shape its future after the war, the death penalty remains a hot topic. It shows the country's struggle with justice, governance, and its fight against terrorism. Even though Iraq's execution practices send shivers down our spines, Saudi Arabia cranks up the intensity. It's a place where even stealing candy could lead to a swift and gruesome end. Saudi Arabia. Get ready for an eye-opening journey into Saudi Arabia, where more than 185 people face their fate each year. The legal system here is as fierce as a lion on the hunt, ready to pounce on anyone caught in its grip. Forget everything you thought you knew about crime and punishment. Here, the rules are different. You could find yourself on death row for things that wouldn't even raise an eyebrow in other countries. Murder and drug trafficking are the most obvious ones. However, burglary, treason, or even just having too much fun with certain drugs can land you in serious trouble. Hold on though, because it gets even crazier. In this kingdom, the laws take a terrifying turn when it comes to faith. Leaving Islam is no small matter. It could put your life on the line. In this land, your spiritual journey isn't just personal. It could mean the difference between living and dying. On top of that, you could wind up in jail for other crimes like adultery, same-sex relationships, and even witchcraft. In a modern world, these outdated laws lead to shocking consequences. Saudi Arabia means business when it comes to justice, and it has three main ways to carry out executions. First up, the firing squad. A team of sharpshooters takes aim and delivers a swift yet brutal end to the condemned. Next is stoning. The condemned person is buried up to their neck in sand, left exposed while stones rain down until life flickers out. It's a gruesome reminder of just how far society can stray from kindness. However, the most common method used is beheading, which is done with a curved sword called a scimitar. This isn't just an execution, it's a strong message. The executioner's quick stroke ends a life in an instant, leaving behind a haunting reminder. To top it off, the bodies are often displayed in public, serving as a chilling warning to anyone thinking of crossing the strict lines of law and order. This reality hits hard, and it's a shocking look at the extreme measures taken in the name of justice. Forget the long, drawn-out appeals in the US. Executions in Saudi Arabia happen in the blink of an eye. As soon as a death sentence is given, it's carried out within the same year. This quick-fire approach to justice creates a chilling atmosphere where even minor mistakes can lead to a swift end, leaving everyone on edge. One wrong move and consequences can come crashing down before you even realize what's at stake. As we dive into this dark side of Saudi Arabian society, remember, these laws aren't just random. They're deeply woven into a cultural and legal system that keeps life hanging by a thread. Just when you think Saudi Arabia sets the bar, another country shatters it with thousands of executions a year, proving that when it comes to capital punishment, the competition is fierce. China. In China, the death penalty isn't just rare, it happens more than 1,000 times a year. Justice here hits like a ton of bricks, and the list of crimes that can land you there is shockingly long. In this strict legal system, serious fraud can send you straight to death row. Speaking out against the government, keep your thoughts to yourself unless you want to see just how fast the law can act. Even things that seem small, like subversion or smuggling people into the country, can lead to harsh punishments. This system runs on a chilling motto: no one is above the law. Just look at Fu Zhenghua, a high-profile politician who thought he was untouchable until 2022, when he got a one-way ticket to death row for pocketing nearly $17 million in bribes. Goes to show that in China, even the powerful can be brought down. Plus, we can't forget Liu Han, the billionaire businessman sentenced to death in 2014. Liu Han was the chairman of the Hanlong Group, a big name in mining and energy with strong ties to government officials. He was a successful entrepreneur and seemed untouchable. However, in a shocking twist, everything changed when he was arrested in 2013 during a massive crackdown on corruption among China's elite. Fast forward to 2014, and the drama hit new heights. Liu was sentenced to death for a shocking list of crimes, from organizing a criminal gang and illegal possession of firearms to even murder. The allegations claimed he led a violent campaign to take out his business rivals, and with charges like that, a severe punishment was expected. Here's the wild part. Just 1 year after his sentencing, Liu was executed in 2015. These jaw-dropping tales scream a loud message. Justice doesn't play favorites. It can strike like lightning, no matter how rich or powerful you are. Now, when it comes to execution methods, China keeps it simple: firing squads and lethal injections. Both options hit hard in a culture that values order and control. However, what happens while inmates wait for their fate is even eye-opening. Inmates spend years in prisons where every day feels like a fight against despair. Many endure grueling 16-hour shifts in conditions that would break even the strongest spirits. Their dignity is stripped away, heads shaved. Eyes glued to the ground, they become mere shadows of who they once were. This bleak prison life breeds hopelessness, with the heavy weight of impending execution hanging overhead like a dark cloud. While China's executions strike hard and fast, Somalia turns them into grim public performances that keep its citizens in a state of fear. Somalia. Shifting our focus to Somalia, it's a place where chaos reigns and justice takes a dark twist. Every year, around 13 people face the death penalty, and these executions aren't just punishments, they're public spectacles. They happen in front of crowds, sending an eerie message that if you defy the law, you'll pay the ultimate price. The reasons for these grim fates range from serious crimes like murder and treason to contentious acts like military desertion. That's not all, though. Leaving Islam, blasphemy, adultery, and same-sex relationships can also put you in the crosshairs. In a society where deep traditions clash with modern values, the consequences are harsh and unforgiving. When it comes to execution methods, Somalia doesn't hold back. There's hanging, firing squads, and stoning. Each method is a brutal reminder of how serious the laws are. These executions are meant to instill fear and keep everyone in line. Inmates are stuck in overcrowded, filthy prisons like Mandera, often called Somalia's worst. Every inch of space is crammed, with cries of hopelessness echoing off the walls. For those on death row, each day is a battle against despair, with the shadow of execution getting closer and closer. On top of that, the mental toll is incredibly huge. It's a constant fight, as fear of what's coming mixes with the harsh reality of prison life. However, while Somalia's executions are a public affair, India's death row reveals a grim reality of confinement and dread behind closed doors. India. In 2023 alone, India handed down a staggering 120 death sentences. In this country, the method of execution is swift and stark. Death sentences are carried out by hanging, a grim process that takes the condemned to their last moments before they leave this world for good. However, these aren't just numbers. They represent shattered lives and families torn apart. India might be known for its colorful culture and rich history, but there's a dark side that often gets hidden: the shocking conditions for those on death row. The justice system here doesn't hold back when it comes to handing out death sentences for serious crimes. Here, people can be sentenced to death for murder, drug trafficking, aircraft hijacking, or even deserting the military. In a truly bizarre twist, some can even face execution for taking part in human sacrifice, a disturbing nod to old beliefs. But life on death row is a nightmare. Inmates often find themselves crammed into overcrowded prisons that feel more like hell than places of justice. They endure tiny, dark cells where movement is nearly impossible. In these cramped spaces, personal dignity and privacy disappear, leaving inmates trapped in a harsh reality. They often find out their execution date just days in advance, a gut-wrenching twist that adds to their mental pain. The fear and uncertainty are overwhelming, snuffing out any hope they might cling to. As the execution date creeps closer, dread fills the room, making it almost real. Life on death row in India shows a justice system struggling with its own serious flaws. raising big questions about fairness and humanity. As India grapples with its own dark realities on death row, North Korea escalates the stakes, where even watching a foreign movie can land you 6 feet under. North Korea. Enter North Korea, where browsing foreign websites, watching international movies, or even joking about a foreign film can land you on death row. Here, just a whisper of dissent can drop you into a dark abyss, where almost anything can earn you a death sentence. The list of offenses is wild and often absurd. Plotting against the regime, cozying up to enemy nations, or spreading harmful info can also land you in serious trouble. In a place where power is tighter than a vice, no one is truly safe, not even high-ranking officials. Kim Jong-un's own uncle met the same fate as regular citizens, proving that people's loyalty is always under watchful eyes. Once a big player in North Korea, Jang Song-taek was the trusted mentor to Kim Jong-un and the vice chairman of the National Defense Commission. His influence was huge. He helped Kim tighten his grip on power after Kim Jong-il died in 2011. However, in the dangerous world of North Korean politics, loyalty can vanish fast, and friends can become enemies in a heartbeat. Then, in a stunning turn of events in December 2013, everything changed for Jang. He was suddenly fired and slapped with shocking charges of treason, corruption, and trying to bring down the regime. Wild claims surfaced that he was involved in anti-state activities and had a group plotting against Kim. Jang's end was quick and brutal, executed by firing squad in a ruthless show of the regime's power. Reportedly, he faced anti-aircraft fire, a shocking act that shows just how far North Korea will go to crush threats. When it comes to execution methods, they're as extreme as the laws: firing squads, hangings, beheadings, and even being shot with a missile. Some of these executions are public spectacles, sending a bone-chilling message about the deadly consequences of dissent. Once on death row, inmates are sent to labor camps that feel like hell on earth. Here, they work grueling hours up to 20 a day, doing back-breaking tasks that crush any hope they have left. The brutal conditions are so harsh that many don't survive the camp's horrors. As for those who do, there's no escape. A grim execution by the guards is just around the corner. What's worse is that the North Korean regime plays a cruel game of collective punishment, dragging the families of those sentenced to death into this nightmare. Entire families are thrown into labor camps, silencing any chance of defying Kim Jong-un's tight grip. Each year, about 150 people face this grim fate, their lives snuffed out in the name of a regime that shows no mercy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.